On today's video, guys, we're going to be back at it again for another installment on our gear reflection history. So without further ado, let's get into it. This series, I basically go back and review previous buy and sell purchase history for these different guitars, different models, different brands. Want to kind of do a deep dive. We can go over all of the likes and dislikes. Hope you guys find this information helpful if it assists you in your future gear purchasing. So today's guitar is going to be from Cerberus Guitars. This model is called the Erebus 6-string. You guys may or may not have heard of Cerberus Guitars. Relatively new company. I believe they've been around for about 4 years. Rob Chapman has recently become a co-owner of the brand, working alongside a gentleman by the name of Michael Campbell. Come up with some really cool designs, very similar to like another style within like that Black Machine like body shape. So pretty aggressive, pretty modern. They've got some very interesting colors, a lot of really high-end features and specifications. Now, I've always been a fan of the Black Machine style guitars. You know, there are a few brands that have similar styles. You guys might have heard me talk about the Ormsby Hype GTRs, had a couple of those, so be sure to check out the video if you haven't already. Now, as far as my thoughts going into this with the Cerberus guitar, again, you guys had seen I had done a review on the Ormsby, and just being that there were a few issues with that guitar as far as some of the ergonomics, some of the design, all those kind of things. I really wanted a straight, regular scale length, no extreme angles with fan frets. I had mentioned the output jack location as well as a couple other ergonomic issues. So at least from what I could tell on paper, it seemed to be a little bit better fit and a little bit more in line with what I'm looking for as far as kind of like that modern, that Black Machine style guitar. So let's get into the specifics of the Erebus. So dealing with a 6-string standard scale length, we've got a lightweight mahogany body, this one coming in at about 7 pounds. So yet again, we have another kind of fun, like ocean tropical theme guitar. This one had a quilted veneer, very nice. This guitar was very well equipped with a lot of high-end standard features, such as stainless steel frets, guitar Marie pickups, hip shot hardware, ebony fretboard, all that good stuff. Now for me, the absolute best feature about this Cerberus guitar was the neck shape. You guys had seen I had talked about the Chapmans, and I always felt like that was an area where there was some room for improvements. Just some of their features just didn't really, like in my view, like completely align with what you would expect out of some of their modern series guitars. The Cerberus being kind of more geared towards like that metal player. Super happy with the neck profile on the Erebus. Very, very thin, like modern C shape. Was a bit flatter, not too wide, super comfortable. I definitely think that this was just the right shape for this type of guitar. I would describe it very similar to like any equivalent modern Schecter guitar. A lot of similar fit and finish. This guitar coming out of the World Music Factory in Korea. I've spoken about that on other videos. In my experience, for the most part, I've had pretty good overall results as far as quality control coming out of that Korean factory. This one having the normal 25.5-inch scale is pretty comfortable to play, nothing weird. I do know some of their other various production runs. They've explored other extended range such as 26.5 as well as 27-inch scales. Okay, so lots of positive things to say about the Cerberus. Let's get into some of the drawbacks and things that ultimately led me to parting ways with this guitar. Okay, so right off the bat, one thing that's very strange about these guitars is the thickness of the body. When I measured this guitar, I believe it came in right at 1 3/4 inches thick, which was quite chunky. I felt that just the body shape was just unusually thick. I don't really think I've seen too many like modern guitar shapes with such a chunky body. I did post in the Cerberus Facebook group just looking to get a little bit more perspective. The co-owner, Michael, was kind enough to respond. He did state that the purpose of having the bodies cut much thicker was to allow for the accommodation of a Floyd Rose bridge. So I think that's kind of cool. I like the idea that, you know, thinking ahead possibly that once the guitar makes it to the customer's hands, that there is some room for maybe some serious modifications. For me, just kind of wanting like more of a lighter, smaller sort of form factor, I definitely think that it would make a lot more sense just to slim down those bodies a little bit more. Again, just that 1 3/4 inch was pretty thick. I have to say, coming in at 7 pounds, you know, even being as thick as the body was, still very well satisfied with how lightweight the guitar was. Now, as far as like the ergonomics, like the actual like shapes and curves of the guitar body itself, The top obviously didn't really have like a super amazing like forearm contour. As expected, you know, this is designed to kind of follow that same shape as like the Black Machine guitars. So like really no complaints overall there. Had this been the only issue, I would definitely say that I would certainly have kept this particular guitar. So it just has like a little bit of a bevel on there, but still kind of sort of flattens out. So you do get a little bit of that slightly harder edge on the wrist. Now, unlike the Ormsby Hype GTR, this guitar actually had a fairly decent contour on the back. It was a little strange, just kind of the way they scooped out like that middle section at an angle. I think it would have made a little more sense just to go a little bit deeper, like on the back. But again, definitely a little bit more comfortable than the Ormsby. Lastly, one of the biggest issues that kind of killed it for me was being a 5-piece walnut maple neck, which normally are super comfortable, fast, smooth finish woods. This one on the upper lamination, that second piece of walnut, there was some unusually deep open pores in the grain, and it really felt very rough and uneven. Actually, a little bit more similar to kind of what you would expect out of more of like a wenge rather than a walnut. Now, I've always been a huge fan of walnut necks. I've got walnut on Kiesel, super comfortable, super fast, super smooth. We've all had Fender Strats. I've got my HH Stratocaster, and it's got obviously that classic Strat, that skunk stripe, which is made of walnut. Again, super smooth, no issues. So again, this one being a 5-piece, you've got 2 walnut stripes. One of the walnut laminations was like perfectly smooth, absolutely no issues. All the grain was very well closed. And then one of the other stripes, and I'll put up some pictures you can see, I mean, it was just like, it's literally like stepping on like a crack in the sidewalk. I mean, it was just very rough, not super comfortable at all. Now, I know some of you guys may hear that and say, well, is there a chance maybe that was just like a transitional section, like a seam sprout from where like the walnut meets the mahogany? It was not a seam sprout. It was the deep openness of the grain itself on one of those walnut laminations. So not all wood is perfect. You know, it's a natural material, comes from a tree. Unfortunately, just this particular guitar, just one of those pieces was just very, very rough. And for me, it just didn't feel great under the thumb. Now, had this been a brand new guitar purchase, I definitely would have tried to exchange it for another model. However, due to the limited availability of these guitars just coming in limited production runs, it's not the kind of thing you're just gonna walk in a store and just swap it out like your everyday Fender Strat. So overall, guys, I think that there is huge, huge potential with Cerberus guitars. I'm very excited to see future developments, future production runs. I would definitely consider giving them another try. I think just this particular one, again, it's just kind of luck of the draw. Sometimes you do get a piece of wood that's got a bit more texture than would be desirable. I really think specifically if they could just revise some of those body contours, just kind of carve it out a little bit better on the back of the body, maybe round it off a little bit more in the front, just slim down the actual thickness of the body itself, I think these guys would have the perfect modern Black Machine style guitar. I'm definitely gonna keep my eyes open as far as like any openings for like new runs coming from Cerberus guitars. I definitely want to give them another chance when the time comes. So those are my thoughts for today's video. I hope you guys find this information helpful. Overall, great guitar. I know perhaps I may sound a little bit critical, but it is important to take the time to sort of break down the pros and cons, share these experiences to help you guys make decisions about your gear purchases. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Be sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on Cerberus guitars. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.